before them and said, since this is your feeling in the matter, be so kind as to ask Ephron, Zohar's son, to sell me the cave of Machpelah down at the end of his field. I will, of course, pay the full price for it, whatever is publicly agreed upon, and it will become a permanent cemetery for my family. Ephron was sitting there among the others, and now he spoke up, answering Abraham as the others listened, speaking publicly before all the citizens of the town. Sir, he said to Abraham, please listen to me. I will give you the cave and the field without any charge. Here in the presence of my people, I give it to you free. Go and bury your dead. Abraham bowed again to the men of Heth and replied to Ephron as all listened. No, let me buy it from you. Let me pay the full price of the field, and then I will bury my dead. Well, the land is worth 400 pieces of silver, Ephron said. But what is that between friends? Go ahead and bury your dead. So Abraham paid Ephron the price he had suggested, 400 pieces of silver, as publicly agreed. This is the land he bought, Ephron's field at Machpelah near Mamre, and the cave at the end of the field, and all the trees in the field. They became his permanent possession by agreement in the presence of the men of Heth at the city gate. So Abraham buried Sarah there in the field and cave deeded to him by the men of Heth as a burial plot. Genesis chapter 24, verse 1. Abraham was now very old, and God blessed him in every way. One day Abraham said to his household administrator, who was his oldest servant, swear by Jehovah, the God of heaven and earth, that you will not let my son marry one of these local girls, these Canaanites. Go instead to my homeland, to my relatives, and find a wife for him there. But suppose I can't find a girl who will come so far from home, the servant asked. Then shall I take Isaac there to live among your relatives? No, Abraham warned. Be careful that you don't do that under any circumstance. For the Lord God of heaven told me to leave that land and my people and promised to give me and my children this land. He will send his angel on ahead of you, and he will see to it that you find a girl from there to be my son's wife. But if you don't succeed, then you are free from this oath. But under no circumstances are you to take my son there. So the servant vowed to follow Abraham's instructions. He took with him 10 of Abraham's camels loaded with samples of the best of everything his master owned and journeyed to Iraq, to Nahor's village. There he made the camels kneel down outside the town, beside a spring. It was evening, and the women of the village were coming to draw water. O Jehovah, the God of my master, he prayed, show kindness to my master Abraham and help me to accomplish the purpose of my journey. See, here I am, standing beside this spring, and the girls of the village are coming out to draw water. This is my request. When I ask one of them for a drink, and she says, yes, certainly, and I will water your camels too, let her be the one you have appointed as Isaac's wife. This is how I will know. As he was still speaking to the Lord about this, a beautiful young girl named Rebekah arrived with a water jug on her shoulder and filled it at the spring. Her father was Bethuel, the son of Nahor, and his wife Milcah. Running over to her, the servant asked her for a drink. Certainly, sir, she said, and quickly lowered the jug for him to drink. Then she said, I'll draw water for your camels too, until they have enough. So she emptied the jug into the watering trough and ran down to the spring again and kept carrying water to the camels until they had enough. The servant said no more, but watched her carefully to see if she would finish the job, so that he would know whether she was the one. Then at last, when the camels had finished drinking, he produced a 1/4-ounce gold earring and 2 5-ounce gold bracelets for her wrists. Whose daughter are you, miss? He asked. Would your father have any room to put us up for the night? My father is Bethuel, she replied. My grandparents are Milcah and Nahor. Yes, we have plenty of straw and food for the camels and a guest room. The man stood there a moment with head bowed, worshiping Jehovah. Thank you, Lord God of my master Abraham. He prayed that for you being so kind and true to him and for leading me straight to the family of my master's relatives. The girl ran home to tell her folks. And when her brother Laban saw the ring and the bracelets on his sister's wrist and heard her story, he rushed out to the spring where the man was still standing beside his camels and said to him, come and stay with us, friend. Why stand here outside when we have room all ready for you and a place prepared for the camels? So the man went home with Laban, and Laban gave him straw to bed down the camels and feed for them and water for the camel drivers to wash their feet. Then supper was served. But the old man said, I don't want to eat until I've told you why I'm here. All right, Laban said, tell us your errand. I am Abraham's servant, he explained, and Jehovah has overwhelmed my master with blessings so that he is a great man among the people of his land. God has given him flocks of sheep and herds of cattle and a fortune in silver and gold and many slaves and camels and donkeys. Now, when Sarah, my master's wife, was very old, she gave birth to my master's son, and my master has given him everything he owns. And my master made me promise not to let Isaac marry one of the local girls, but to come to his relatives here in this far-off land to his brother's family, and to bring back a girl from here to marry his son. But suppose I can't find a girl who will come, I asked him. She will, he told me, for my Lord, in whose presence I have walked, will send his angel with you and make your mission successful. Yes, find a girl from among my relatives and from my brother's family. You are under oath to go and ask. If they won't send anyone, then you are freed from your promise. Well, this afternoon when I came to the spring, I prayed this prayer. O Jehovah, the God of my master Abraham, if you're planning to make my mission a success, please guide me in this way. Here I am standing beside this spring. I will say to some girl who comes out to draw water, please give me a drink of water. And she will reply, certainly, and I will water your camels too. Let that girl be the one you have selected to be the wife of my master's son. Well, while I was still speaking these words, Rebekah was coming along with her water jug upon her shoulder, and she went down to the spring and drew water and filled the jug. I said to her, please give me a drink. She quickly lifted the jug down from her shoulder so that I could drink and told me, certainly, sir, and I will water your camels too. So she did. Then I asked her, whose family are you from? And she told me, Nahor's. My father is Bethuel, the son of Nahor, and his wife Milcah. So I gave her the ring and the bracelets. Then I bowed my head and worshiped and blessed Jehovah, the God of my master Abraham, because he had led me along just the right path to find a girl from the family of my master's brother. So tell me yes or no, will you or won't you be kind to my master and do what is right? When you tell me, then I will know what my next step should be, whether to move this way or that. Then Laban and Bethuel replied, the Lord has obviously brought you here, so what can we say? Take her and go. Yes, let her be the wife of your master's son, as Jehovah has directed. At this reply, Abraham's servant fell to his knees before Jehovah. Then he brought out jewels set in solid gold and silver for Rebekah, and lovely clothing, and he gave many valuable presents to her mother and brother. Then they had supper, and the servant and the men with him stayed there overnight. But early the next morning, he said, send me back to my master. But we want Rebekah here at least another 10 days or so, her mother and brother exclaimed. Then she can go. But he pleaded, don't hinder my return. The Lord has made my mission successful, and I want to report back to my master. Well, they said, we'll call the girl and ask her what she thinks. So they called Rebekah. Are you willing to go with this man? They asked her. And she replied, yes, I will go. So they told her goodbye, sending along the women who had been her childhood nurse, and blessed her with this blessing as they parted. Our sister, may you become the mother of many millions. May your descendants overcome all your enemies. So Rebekah and her servant girls mounted the camels and went with him. Meanwhile, Isaac, whose home was in Negeb, had returned to Beer Lahai Roi. One evening, as he was taking a long walk out in the fields meditating, he looked up and saw the camels coming. Rebekah noticed him and quickly dismounted. Who is that man walking through the fields to meet us? She asked the servant. And he replied, it is my master's son. So she covered her face with her veil. Then the servant told Isaac the whole story. And Isaac brought Rebekah into his mother's tent, and she became his wife. He loved her very much, and she was a special comfort to him after the loss of his mother. Genesis chapter 25, verse 1. Now Abraham married again. Keturah was his new wife, and she bore him several children, Zimram, Jokshan, Medan, Midian, Ishbak, Shua. Jokshan's two sons were Sheba and Dedan. Dedan's sons were Ashurim, Letushim, and Lumam. Midian's sons were Ephah, Hanok, Abida, Eldah. Abraham deeded everything he owned to Isaac. However, he gave gifts to the sons of his concubines and sent them off into the east away from Isaac. Then Abraham died at the ripe old age of 175, and his sons Isaac and Ishmael buried him in the cave of Machpelah near Mamre, in the field Abraham had purchased from Ephron, the son of Zohar, the Hethite, where Sarah, Abraham's wife, was buried. After Abraham's death, God poured out his rich blessings upon Isaac. Isaac had now moved south to Beer Lahai Roi in the Negeb. Here is a list, in the order of their births, of the descendants of Ishmael, who was the son of Abraham, and Hagar the Egyptian. Sarah's slave girl, Neboi, Kedar, Abdil, Mibsam, Mishma, Duma, Massa, Hadad, Temer, Jeter, Naphish, Kedema. These 12 sons of his became the founders of the 12 tribes that bore their names. Ishmael finally died at the age of 137 and joined his ancestors. These descendants of Ishmael were scattered across the country from Havilah to Shur, which is a little way to the northeast of the Egyptian border in the direction of Assyria, and they were constantly at war with one another. This is the story of Isaac's children. Isaac was 40 years old when he married Rebekah, the daughter of Bethuel, the Aramean from Padan Aram. Rebekah was the sister of Laban. Isaac pleaded with Jehovah to give Rebekah a child, for even after many years of marriage, she had no children. Then at last she became pregnant, and it seemed as though the children were fighting each other inside of her. I can't endure this, she exclaimed. So she asked the Lord about it, and he told her, the sons of your womb shall become two rival nations. One will be stronger than the other, and the older shall be a servant of the younger. And sure enough, she had twins. The first was born so covered with reddish hair that one would think he was wearing a fur coat. So they called him Esau. Then the other twin was born, and with his hand on Esau's heel. So they called him Jacob, meaning grabber. Isaac was 60 years old when the twins were born. As the boys grew, Esau became a skillful hunter, while Jacob was a quiet sort who liked to stay at home. Isaac's favorite was Esau because of the venison he brought home, and Rebekah's favorite was Jacob. One day, Jacob was cooking stew when Esau arrived home exhausted from the hunt. Esau, boy, am I starved. Give me a bite of that red stuff there. From this came his nickname Edom, which means red stuff. Jacob, all right, trade me your birthright for it. Esau, when a man is dying of starvation, what good is his birthright? Jacob, well then, vow to God that it is mine. And Esau vowed, thereby selling all his eldest son's rights to his younger brother. Wow. Then Jacob gave Esau bread, peas, and stew, so he ate and drank and went on about his business, indifferent to the loss of the rights he had thrown away. Wow. Genesis 26:1. Now a severe famine overshadowed the land as happened before in Abraham's time. So Isaac moved to the city of Gerar, where Abimelech, king of the Philistines, lived. Jehovah appeared to him there and told him, don't go to Egypt. Do as I say and stay here in this land. If you do, I will be with you and bless you, and I will give you all this land to you and to your descendants, just as I promised Abraham your father. And I will cause your descendants to become as numerous as the stars. And I will give them all these lands, and they will be a blessing to all the nations of the earth. I will do this because Abraham obeyed my commandments and laws. So Isaac stayed in Gerar. And when the men there asked him about Rebekah, he said, she is my sister. For he feared for his life if he told them she was his wife. He was afraid they would kill him to get her, for she was very attractive. But sometime later, King Abimelech, king of the Philistines, looked out of a window and saw Isaac and Rebekah making love. Abimelech called for Isaac and exclaimed, she is your wife. Why did you say she is your sister? Because I was afraid I would be murdered, Isaac replied. I thought someone would kill me to get her from me. How could you treat us this way? Abimelech explained. Someone might carelessly have raped her, and we would be doomed. Then Abimelech made a public proclamation. Anyone harming this man or his wife shall die. That year, Isaac's crops were tremendous, 100 times the grain he sowed, for Jehovah blessed him. He was soon a man of great wealth and became richer and richer. He had large flocks of sheep and goats, great herds of cattle, and many servants. And the Philistines became jealous of him. So they filled up his wells with earth, all those dug by the servants of his father Abraham. And King Abimelech asked Isaac to leave the country. Go somewhere else, he said, for you've become too rich and powerful for us. So Isaac moved to Gerar Valley and lived there instead. And Isaac redug the wells of his father Abraham, the ones the Philistines had filled after his father's death, and gave them the same names they had before when his father had named them. His shepherds also dug a new well in Gerar Valley and found a gushing underground spring. Then the local shepherds came and claimed it. This is our land and our well, they said, and argued over it with Isaac's herdsmen. So he named the well of argument. Isaac's men then dug another well, but again there was a fight over it. So he called it the well of anger. Abandoning that one, he dug again, and the local residents finally left him alone. So he called it the well of room enough for us at last. For now at last, he said, the Lord has made room for us, and we shall thrive. When he went to Beersheba, Jehovah appeared to him on the night of his arrival. I am the God of Abraham, your father, he said. Fear not, for I am with you, and I will bless you, and will give you so many descendants that you will become a great nation because of my promise to Abraham, who obeyed me. Then Isaac built an altar and worshiped Jehovah, and he settled there, and his servants dug a well. One day Isaac had visitors from Gerar. King Abimelech arrived with his advisor, Ahuzath, and also Phicol, his army commander. Why have you come? Isaac asked them. This is obviously no friendly visit since you kicked me out in a most uncivil way. Well, they said, we can plainly see that Jehovah is blessing you. We've decided to ask for a treaty between us. Promise that you will not harm us, just as we have not harmed you, and in fact have done only good to you and have sent you away in peace. We bless you in the name of the Lord. So Isaac prepared a great feast for them, and they ate and drank in preparation for the treaty ceremonies. In the morning, as soon as they were up, they each took solemn oaths to seal a non-aggression pact. Then Isaac sent them happily home again. That very same day, Isaac's servants came to tell him, we have found water in the well they had been digging. So he named the well of the oath. And the city that grew up there was named Oath, and it is called that to this day. Esau, at the age of 40, married a girl named Judith, daughter of Beri the Hethite, and he also married Basemath, daughter of Elon the Hethite. But Isaac and Rebekah were bitter about him marrying them. Genesis chapter 27, verse 1. One day in Isaac's old age, when he was almost blind, he called for Esau, his oldest son. Isaac, my son, Esau. Yes, father. Isaac, I'm an old man now and expect every day to be my last. Take your bow and arrows out into the fields and get me some venison and prepare it just like the way I like it, savory and good. And bring it here for me to eat, and I will give you the blessings that belong to you, my firstborn son, before I die. But Rebekah overheard the conversation. So when Esau left for the field to hunt for venison, she called her son Jacob and told him what his father had said to his brother, Rebekah. Now do exactly as I tell you. Go out to the flocks and bring me 2 young goats, and I'll prepare your father's favorite dish from them. Then take it to your father, and after he has enjoyed it, he will bless you before his death instead of Esau. Jacob: but mother, he won't be fooled that easily. Think how hairy Esau is and how smooth my skin is. What if my father feels me? He'll think I'm making a fool of him and curse me instead of blessing me. Rebekah: let his curses be on me, dear son. Just do what I tell you. Go out and get the goats. So Jacob followed his mother's instructions, bringing the dressed kids, which she prepared in his father's favorite way. Then she took Esau's best clothes. They were there in the house, and instructed Jacob to put them on. And she made him a pair of gloves from the hairy skin of the young goats and fastened a strip of the hide around his neck. Then she gave him the meat with its rich aroma and some fresh baked bread. Jacob carried the platter of food into the room where his father was lying. Jacob: father? Isaac: yes. Who is it, my son, Esau or Jacob? Jacob: it's Esau, your oldest son. I've done as you've told me. Here's a delicious venison. Here is the delicious venison you wanted. Sit up and eat it so that you will bless me with all your heart. Isaac: how were you able to find it so quickly, my son? Jacob: because Jehovah your God put it in my path. You old lying wonder. Isaac: come over here. I want to feel you and be sure it is really Esau. Jacob goes over to his father and he feels him. Isaac to himself: the voice is Jacob's, but the hands are Esau's. The ruse convinces Isaac and he gives Jacob his blessings. Isaac: are you really Esau? Jacob: yes, of course. Isaac: then bring me the venison and I will eat it and bless you with all my heart. Jacob takes it over to him and Isaac eats. He also drinks the wine Jacob brings him. Isaac: come here and kiss me, my son. Jacob goes over and kisses him on the cheek. Isaac sniffs his clothes and finally seems convinced. Isaac: the smell of my son is the good smell of the earth and the fields that Jehovah has blessed. May God always give you plenty of rain for your crops and good harvests and grapes. May many nations be your slaves. Be the master of your brothers. May all your relatives bow low before you. Cursed are all those who curse you, and blessed are all those who bless you. As soon as Isaac had blessed Jacob, and almost before Jacob leaves the room, Esau arrives coming in from his hunting. He also has prepared his father's favorite dish and brings it to him. Esau: here I am, father, with the venison. Sit up and eat it so that you can give me your finest blessings. Isaac: who is it? Esau: why, it's me, of course, Esau, your oldest son. Isaac begins to tremble noticeably. Isaac: then who is it that was just here with the venison and I've already eaten it and blessed him with irrevocable blessing? Esau begins to sob with deep and bitter sobs. Esau: oh, my father, bless me too. Isaac: your brother was here and tricked me and has carried away your blessing. Esau bitterly: no wonder they call him the cheater, for he took my birthright and now he has stolen my blessing. Oh, haven't you saved even one blessing for me? Isaac: I have made him your master and given him yourself and all of your relatives as his servants. I have guaranteed him abundance of grain and wine. What is there left to give? Esau: not one blessing left for me? Oh, my father, bless me too. Isaac says nothing as Esau weeps. Isaac: yours will be no life of ease and luxury, but you will hew your way with your sword. For a time you will serve your brother, but you will finally shake loose from him and be free. So Esau hated Jacob because of what he had done to him. He said to himself, my father will soon be gone, and then I will kill Jacob. But someone got wind of what he was planning and reported it to Rebekah. She sent for Jacob and told him that his life was being threatened by Esau. This is what to do, she said. Flee to your uncle Laban in Haran. Stay there with him a while until your brother's fury is spent, and he forgets what you have done. What you have done, Rebekah, Then I will send for you, for why should I be bereaved of both of you in one day? Then Rebekah said to Isaac, I'm sick and tired of these local girls. I'd rather die than see Jacob marry one of them. Ooh, that Rebekah is something else. Genesis 28:1. So Isaac called for Jacob and blessed him and said to him, don't marry one of these Canaanite girls. Instead, go at once to Padan Aram, to the house of your grandfather Bethuel, and marry one of your cousins, your uncle Laban's daughters. God Almighty bless you and give you many children. May you become a great nation of many tribes. May God pass on to you and to your descendants the mighty blessings promised to Abraham. May you own this land where we are now foreigners, for God has given it to Abraham. So Isaac sent Jacob away, and he went to Padan Aram to visit his uncle Laban, his mother's brother, the son of Bethuel the Aramean. Esau realized that his father despised the local girls and that his father and mother had sent Jacob to Padanaram with his father's blessing to get a wife from there, and that they had strictly warned him against marrying a Canaanite girl, and that Jacob had agreed and had left for Padanaram. So Esau went to his uncle Ishmael's family and married another wife from there, besides the wives he already had. Her name was Mahalath, the sister of Nebaioth, the daughter of Ishmael, Abraham's son. So Jacob left Beersheba and journeyed toward Haran. That night, when he stopped to camp at sundown, he found a rock for a headrest to lay down to sleep, and dreamed that a staircase reached from earth to heaven, and he saw angels of God going up and down upon it. At the top of the stairs stood the Lord. I am Jehovah, he said, the God of Abraham and of your father Isaac. The ground you are lying on is yours. I will give it to you and to your descendants. For you will have descendants as many as dust. They will cover the land from the east to the west and from the north to the south, and all the nations of the earth will be blessed through you and your descendants. What's more, I am with you and will protect you wherever you go, and will bring you back safely to this land. I will be with you constantly until I have finished giving you all I am promising. Then Jacob woke up. God lives here, he exclaimed in terror. I've stumbled into his home. This is the awesome entrance to heaven. The next morning he got up very early and set his stone headrest upright as a memorial pillar and poured olive oil over it. He named the place Bethel, meaning house of God, though the previous name of the nearest village was Luz. And Jacob vowed this vow to God. If God will help and protect me on this journey and give me food and clothes and will bring me back safely to my father, then I will choose Jehovah as my God. And this memorial pillar shall become a place for worship, and I will give you back 1/10 of everything you give me. Genesis chapter 29. Jacob traveled on, finally arriving in the land of the east. He saw in the distance 3 flocks of sheep lying beside a well in an open field, waiting to be watered, but a heavy stone covered the mouth of the well. The custom was that the stone was not removed until all the flocks were there. After watering them, the stone was rolled back over the mouth of the well again. Jacob went over to the shepherds and asked them where they lived. At Haran, they said. Do you know a fellow there named Laban, the son of Nahor? We sure do. How is he? He's well and prosperous. Look, there comes his daughter Rachel with the sheep. Why don't you water the flock so that they can get back to grazing? Jacob asked. They'll be hungry if you stop so early in the day. We don't roll away the stone and begin the watering until all the flocks and shepherds are here, they replied. As this conversation was going on, Rachel arrived with the father's sheep, for she was a shepherdess. And because she was his cousin, the daughter of his mother's brother, and because the sheep were his uncle's. Jacob went over to the well and rolled away the stone and watered his uncle's flocks. Then Jacob kissed Rachel and started crying. He explained about being her cousin on her father's side, and that he was her Aunt Rebekah's son. She quickly ran and told her father Laban, and as soon as he heard of Jacob's arrival, he rushed out to meet him and greeted him warmly and brought him home. Then Jacob told him his story. Just think, my very own flesh and blood, Laban exclaimed. After Jacob had been there about a month, Laban said to him one day, just because we are relatives, there's no reason for you to work for me without pay. How much do you want? Now Laban had 2 daughters, Leah the older and her younger sister Rachel. Leah had lovely eyes, but Rachel was shapely and in every way a beauty. Well, Jacob was in love with Rachel, so he told her father, I'll work for you 7 years if you'll give me Rachel as my wife. Agreed, Laban replied. I'd rather give her to you than to someone outside the family. So Jacob spent the next 7 years working to pay for Rachel, but they seemed to him but a few days. He was so much in love. Finally, the time came for him to marry her. I fulfilled my contract, Jacob said to Laban. Now give me my wife so that I can sleep with her. So Laban invited all the men in the settlement to celebrate with Jacob at a big party. Afterwards that night, when it was dark, Laban took Leah to Jacob and he slept with her. And Laban gave to Leah a servant girl, Zilpah, to be her maid. But in the morning it was Leah. What sort of trick is this? Jacob raged at Laban. I worked for 7 years for Rachel. What do you mean by this trickery? It's not our custom to marry off a younger daughter ahead of her sister, Laban replied smoothly. Wait until the bridal week is over and you can have Rachel too, if you promise to work for me another 7 years. So Jacob agreed to work 7 more years. Then Laban gave him Rachel too, and Laban gave to Rachel a servant girl, Bilhah, to be her maid. So Jacob slept with Rachel too, and he loved her more than Leah, and stayed and worked the additional 7 years. But because Jacob was slighting Leah, Jehovah let her have a child, while Rachel was barren. So Leah became pregnant and had a son, Reuben, meaning God has noticed my trouble. For she said, Jehovah has noticed my trouble. Now my husband will love me. She soon became pregnant again and had another son and named him Simeon, meaning Jehovah heard. For she said, Jehovah heard that I was unloved, and so he has given me another son. And again she became pregnant and had a son and named him Levi, meaning attachment. For she said, surely now my husband will feel affection for me since I've given him 3 sons. Once again, she was pregnant and had a son and named him Judah, meaning praise. For she said, now will I praise Jehovah. And then she stopped having children. Genesis chapter 30, verse 1. Rachel realizing she was barren became envious of her sister. Give me children or I'll die, she exclaimed to Jacob. Jacob flew into a rage. Am I God, he flared. He is the one who is responsible for your barrenness. Then Rachel told him, sleep with my servant girl Bilhah, and her children will be mine. So she gave him Bilhah to be his wife, and he slept with her. And she became pregnant and presented him with a son. Rachel named him Dan, meaning justice, for she said, God has given me justice and heard my plea and given me a son. Then Bilhah, Rachel's servant girl, became pregnant again and gave Jacob a second son. Rachel named him Naphtali, meaning wrestling, for he said, I'm in a fierce contest with my sister and I am winning. Meanwhile, when Leah realized that she wasn't getting pregnant anymore, she gave her servant girl Zilpah to Jacob to be his wife. And soon Zilpah presented him with a son. Leah named him Gad, meaning my luck has turned. Then Zilpah produced a second son, and Leah named him Asher, meaning happy. For she said, what joy is mine? The other women will think me blessed indeed. One day during the wheat harvest, Reuben found some mandrakes growing in the field and brought them to his mother Leah. Rachel begged Leah to give some of them to her. But Leah angrily replied, wasn't it enough to steal my husband, and now will you steal my son's mandrakes too? Rachel said sadly, he will sleep with you tonight because of the mandrakes. That evening, as Jacob was coming home from the fields, Leah went out to meet him. You must sleep with me tonight, she said, for I am hiring you with some mandrakes, that my son has found. So he did. And God answered her prayers, and she became pregnant again and gave birth to her fifth son. She named him Issachar, meaning wages. For she said, God has repaid me for giving my slave girl to my husband. Then once again, she became pregnant with a sixth son. She named him Zebulun, meaning gifts. For she said, God has given me good gifts for my husband. Now he will honor me, for I have given him 6 sons. Afterwards, she gave birth to a daughter and named her Dinah. Then God remembered about Rachel's plight and answered her prayers by giving her a child. For she became pregnant and gave birth to a son. God has removed the dark slur against my name, she said, and she named him Joseph, meaning, may I also have another. For she said, may Jehovah give me another son. Soon after the birth of Joseph to Rachel, Jacob said to Laban, I want to go back home. Let me take my wives and children, for I've earned them from you, and be gone. For you know how fully I have paid for them with my service to you. Please don't leave me, Laban replied, for a fortune teller that I consulted told me that many blessings I've been enjoying are all because of you being here. How much of a raise do you need to get you to stay? Whatever it is, I'll pay it. Jacob replied, you know how faithfully I've served you through these many years and how your flocks and herds have grown. For it was little indeed, you had before I came, and your wealth has increased enormously. Jehovah has blessed you from everything I do. But now, what about me? When should I provide for my own family? What wages do you want? Laban asked him again. Jacob replied, if you will do one thing, I'll go back to work for you. Let me go out among your flocks today and remove all the goats that are speckled and spotted and all the black sheep. Give them to me for my wages. And if you ever find any white goats or sheep in my flock, you will know that I have stolen them from you. All right, Laban replied, it will be as you have said. So that very day, Laban went out and formed a flock for Jacob of all the male goats that were ringed and spotted, and the females that were speckled and spotted with any white patches, and all the black sheep. He gave them to Jacob's sons to take them 3 days' distance, and Jacob stayed and cared for Laban's flock. Then Jacob took fresh shoots from poplar, almond, and sycamore trees and peeled white streaks in them, and placed these rods beside the watering trough so that Laban's flocks would see them when they came to drink, for that is when they mated. So the flocks mated before the white streaked rods, and their offspring were streaked and spotted, and Jacob added them to his flock. Boy, that's a trickster. Then he divided out the ewes from Laban's flocks and segregated them from the rams and let them mate only with Jacob's black rams. Thus he built his flocks from Laban's. Moreover, he watched for the stronger animals to mate and placed the peeled branches before them, but didn't with the feebler ones. So the less healthy lambs were Laban's and the stronger ones were Jacob's. As a result, Jacob's flocks increased rapidly, and he became very wealthy with many servants, camels, and donkeys. Genesis chapter 31. But Jacob learned that Laban's sons were grumbling. He owes everything he owns to our father. All his wealth is at our father's expense. Soon Jacob noticed a considerable cooling in Laban's attitude toward him. Jehovah now spoke to Jacob and told him, return to the land of your fathers and to your relatives there, and I will be with you. So one day Jacob sent for Rachel and Leah to come out to the field where he was with his flocks to talk things over with them. Your father has turned against me, he told them, and now the God of my fathers has come and spoken to me. You know how hard I've worked for your father, but he has been completely unscrupulous and has broken his wage contract with me again and again and again. But God has not permitted him to do me any harm. For if he said the speckled animals would be mine, then all the flock produced speckled. And when he changed and said I could have had the streaked ones, then all the lambs were streaked. In this way, God has made me wealthy at your father's expense. And at the mating season, I had a dream. I saw that the he-goats mating with the flocks were streaked, speckled, and mottled. Then in my dream, the angel of God called to me and told me that I should mate the white female goats with the streaked, speckled, and mottled male goats. For I have seen all that Laban has done to you, the angel said. I am the God who met you at Bethel, he continued, the place where you anointed the pillar and made a vow to serve me. Now leave this country and return to the land of your birth. Rachel and Leah replied, that's fine with us. There's nothing here for us. None of our father's wealth will come to us anyway. He has reduced our rights to those of foreign women. He sold us, and what he received for us has disappeared. The riches God has given you from our father were legally ours, and our children's to begin with. So go ahead and do whatever God has told you to do. So one day while Laban was out shearing sheep, Jacob set his wives and his sons on camels and fled without telling Laban his intentions. He drove the flocks before him, Jacob's flocks he had gotten there at Padanaram, and took everything he owned and started out to return to his father Isaac in the land of Canaan. So he fled with all his possessions, and Rachel stole her father's household gods and took them with her, and crossed the Euphrates River and headed for the territory of Gilead. Laban didn't learn of their flight for 3 days. Then taking several men with him, he set out in hot pursuit and caught up with them 7 days later at Mount Gilead. That night God appeared to Laban in a dream. Watch out what you say to Jacob, he was told. Don't give him your blessing and don't curse him. Laban finally caught up with Jacob as he was camped at the top of a ridge. Laban, meanwhile, camped below in the mountains. What do you mean by sneaking off like this? Laban demanded. Are my daughters prisoners captured in a battle that you have rushed them away like this? Why didn't you give me a chance to have a farewell party with singing and orchestra and harp? Why didn't you let me kiss my grandchildren and tell them goodbye? This is a strange way to act. I could crush you, but the God of your father appeared to me last night and told me, be careful not to be too hard on Jacob. But see here, though you feel you must go and long so intensely for your childhood home, why have you stolen my idols? I sneaked away because I was afraid, Jacob answered. I said to myself, he'll take his daughters from me by force. But as for your household idols, a curse upon anyone who took them. Let him die. If you find a single thing that we've stolen from you, I swear before all these men, I'll give it back without question. For Jacob didn't know that Rachel had taken them. Laban went first into Jacob's tent to search there, then into Leah's, and then searched the 2 tents of the concubines, but didn't find them. Finally, he went into Rachel's tent. Rachel, remember, was the one who had stolen the idols. She had stuffed them into her camel saddle and was now sitting on them. So although Laban searched his tents thoroughly, he didn't find them. Forgive my not getting up, Father, Rachel explained, but I'm having my monthly period. So Laban didn't find them. Ooh, y'all are some lying people. Now Jacob got mad. What did you find? He demanded of Laban. What is my crime? You have come rushing out after me as though you were chasing a criminal and have searched through everything. Now put everything I stole out here in front of us before your men and mine for all to see and to decide whose it is. 20 years I've been with you, and all that time I cared for your ewes and goats so that they produce healthy offspring, and I never touched one ram of yours for food. If any were attacked and killed by wild animals, did I show them to you and ask you to reduce the count of your flock? No, I took the loss. You made me pay for every animal stolen from the flocks, whether I could help it or not. I worked for you through the scorching heat of the day and through the cold of the sleepless night. Yes, 20 years, 14 of them earning your 2 daughters, and 6 years to get the flock. And you have reduced my wages 10 times. In fact, except for the grace of God, the God of my grandfather Abraham, even the glorious God of Isaac, my father, you would have sent me off without a penny to my name. But God has seen your cruelty and my hard work, and that is why he appeared to you last night. Laban replied, these women are my daughters, and these children are mine, and these flocks are all that you have. All are mine. So how could I harm my own daughters and grandchildren? Come, and we will sign a peace pact, you and I will live by its terms. So Jacob took a stone and set it up as a monument and told his men to gather stones and make a heap. And Jacob and Laban ate together and beside the pile of rocks. They named it the witness pile, Jagar Shahudutha in Laban's language, and Galeed in Jacob's. The pile of stones will stand as a witness against either of us against if either of us trespass across this line. Laban said, so it was called the watchtower, Mizpah. For Laban said, may the Lord see to it that we keep this bargain when we are out of each other's sight. And if you are harsh to my daughters or take other wives, I won't know, but God will see it. This heap, Laban continued, stands between us as a witness of our vows that I will not cross this line to attack you, and you will not cross it to attack me. I will call upon the God of Abraham and Nahor and of their father to destroy either one of us who does. So Jacob took oath before the mighty God of his father Isaac to respect the boundary line. Then Jacob presented a sacrifice to God there at the top of the mountain and invited his companions to a feast, and afterwards spent the night with them on the mountain. Laban was up early the next morning and kissed his daughters and grandchildren and blessed them and returned home. Genesis chapter 32. So Jacob and his household started on again, and the angels of God came to meet him. When he saw them, he exclaimed, God lives here. So he named the place God's territory. Jacob now sent messengers to his brother Esau and Edom in the land of Seir with this message. Hello from Jacob. I have been living with my uncle Laban until recently, and I own oxen, donkeys, sheep, goats, and many servants, both men and women. I have sent these messengers to inform you of my coming, hoping that you will be friendly to us. The messengers returned with the news that Esau was on the way to meet Jacob with an army of 400 men. Jacob was frantic with fear. He divided his household along with the flocks and herds and camels into two groups. For he said, if Esau attacks one group, perhaps the other can escape. Then Jacob prayed, O God of my father, O God of my Abraham, my grandfather, and of my father Isaac, O Jehovah, who told me to return to the land of my relatives and said that you would do me good. I am not worthy of the least of all your loving kindness shown me again and again, just as you promised me. For when I left home, I owned nothing except a walking stick, and now I am two armies. O Lord, please deliver me from destruction at the hand of Esau, my brother, for I am frightened, terribly afraid that he is coming to kill me, these mothers and my children. But you promised to do me good and to multiply my descendants until they became as the sand along the shores, too many to count. Jacob stayed where he was for the night and prepared a present for his brother Esau. 200 female goats, 20 male goats, 20 ewes, 20 lambs, 30 milk camels with their colts, 40 cows, 10 bulls, 20 female donkeys, 10 male donkeys. He instructed his servants to drive them on ahead, each group of animals by itself, separated by a distance between. He told the men driving the first group that when they met Esau and he asked, where are you going? Whose servants are you? Whose animals are these? They should reply, these belong to your servant Jacob. They are a present for his master Esau. He is coming right behind us. Jacob gave the instructions to each driver with the same message. Jacob's strategy was to appease Esau with the presents before meeting him face to face. Perhaps Jacob hoped he will be friendly to us. So the presents were sent on ahead, and Jacob spent that night in the camp. But during the night, he got up and wakened his 2 wives and his 2 concubines and 11 sons and sent them across the Jordan River at Jabbok Ford with all his possessions, then returned again to the camp and was there alone. And a man wrestled with him until dawn. And when the man saw that he couldn't win the match, he struck Jacob's hip and knocked out the joint of the socket, at the socket. Then the man said, let me go, for it is dawn. But Jacob panted, I will not let you go until you bless me. What is your name? The man asked. Jacob was the reply. It isn't any more, the man told him. It is Israel, one who has power with God. Because you have been strong with God, you shall prevail with men. What is your name? Jacob asked him. No, you mustn't ask, the man told him, and he blessed him there. Jacob named the place Peniel, the face of God, for he said, I have seen God face to face, and yet my life is spared. The sun rose as he started on, and he was limping because of his hip. That is why even today the people of Israel don't eat meat from near the hip in memory of what happened that night. Genesis chapter 33. Then far in the distance, Jacob saw Esau coming with his 400 men. Jacob now arranged his family into a column with his 2 concubines and their children at the head, Leah and her children next, and Rachel and Joseph last. Ooh, that's ugly. My goodness. Wow. Then Jacob went on ahead. As he approached his brother, he bowed low 7 times before him. And then Esau ran to meet him and embraced him affectionately and kissed him, and both of them were in tears. Then Esau looked at the women and children and asked, who are these people with you? My children, Jacob replied. Then the concubines came forward with their children and bowed low before him. Next came Leah with her children and bowed, and finally Rachel and Joseph came and made their bows. And what were all those flocks and herds I met as I came? Esau asked. And Jacob replied, these are my gifts to curry your favor. Brother, I have plenty, Esau laughed. Keep what you have. No, but please accept them, Jacob said, for what a relief it is to see your friendly smile. I was as frightened of you as though approaching God. Please take my gifts, for God has been very generous to me, and I have enough. So Jacob insisted, and finally Esau accepted them. Well, let's be going, Esau said. My men and I will stay with you and lead the way. But Jacob replied, as you can see, some of the children are small, and the flocks and herds have their young, and if they are driven too hard, they will die. So you go on ahead of us, and we'll follow at our own pace and meet you at Seir. Well, Esau said, at least let me leave you some of my men to assist you and be your guides. No, Jacob insisted, we'll get along just fine. Please do as I suggest. So Esau started back to Seir that same day. Meanwhile, Jacob and his household went as far as Succoth. There he built himself a camp with pens for his flocks and herds. That is why the place is called Succoth, meaning huts. Then they arrived safely at Shechem in Canaan and camped outside the city. He bought the land he camped on from the family of Hamor, Shechem's father, for 100 pieces of silver, and there he erected an altar and called it El Elohe Israel, the altar, meaning the altar of the God of Israel. Genesis chapter 34, verse 1. One day Dinah, Leah's daughter, went out to visit one of the neighborhood girls. But when Shechem, son of King Hamor the Hivite, saw her, he took her and raped her. He fell deeply in love with her and tried to win her affection. Then he spoke to his father about it. Get this girl for me, he demanded. I want to marry her. Word soon reached Jacob of what happened, but his sons were out in the field herding cattle, so he did nothing until their return. Meanwhile, King Hamor, Shechem's father, went to talk with Jacob, arriving just as Jacob's sons came in from the fields. Too shocked and angry to overlook the insult, for it was an outrage against all of them. Hamor told Jacob, my son Shechem is truly in love with your daughter and longs for her to be his wife. Please let him marry her. Moreover, we invite you folks to live here among us and let your daughters marry our sons, and we will give our daughters as wives for your young men. And you shall live among us wherever you wish and carry on your business among us and become rich. Then Shechem addressed Dinah's father and brothers. Please be kind to me and let me have her as my wife, he begged. I will give whatever you require. No matter what dowry or gift you demand, I will pay it. Only give me the girl as my wife. Her brothers then lied to Shechem and Hamor, acting dishonorably because of what Shechem had done to their sister. They said, we couldn't possibly, for you are not circumcised. It would be a disgrace for her to marry such a man. I'll tell you what we'll do. If every man of you will be circumcised, then we will intermarry with you and live here and unite with you to become one people. Otherwise, we will take her and be on our way. Hamor and Shechem gladly agreed and lost no time in acting upon this request. For Shechem was very much in love with Dinah and could, he felt sure, sell the idea to the other men of the city, for he was highly respected and very popular. So Hamor and Shechem appeared before the city council and presented their requests. These men are our friends, they said. Let's invite them to live here among us and ply their trade, for the land is large enough to hold them and we can intermarry with them. But they will only consider staying here on one condition, that every one of us men be circumcised the same as they are. But if we do this, then all that they have will become ours and the land will be enriched. Come on, let's agree to this so that they will settle here among us. So all the men agreed and all were circumcised. But 3 days later, when their wounds were sore and sensitive to every move they made, 2 of Dinah's brothers, Simeon and Levi, took their swords, entered the city without opposition, and slaughtered every man there, including Hamor and Shechem. They rescued Dinah from Shechem's house and returned to their camp again. Then all of Jacob's sons went over and plundered the city because their sister had been dishonored there. They confiscated all the flocks and herds and donkeys, everything they could lay their hands on, both inside the city and outside in the fields, and took all the women and children and wealth of every kind. Then Jacob said to Levi and Simeon, you have made me stink among all the people of this land, all the Canaanites and Perizzites. We are so few, they will come and crush us, and we will all be killed. Should he treat our sister like a prostitute? They retorted. Well, they do have a point. Genesis 35:1. Move on to Bethel now and settle there, God said to Jacob, and build an altar to worship me, the God who appeared to you when you fled from your brother Esau. So Jacob instructed all those in his household to destroy the idols that they had brought with them and to wash themselves and to put on fresh clothing. For we're going to Bethel, he told them, and I will build an altar there to the God who answered my prayers in the day of my distress and was with me on my journey. So they gave Jacob all the idols and their earrings, and he buried them beneath the oak tree near Shechem. Then they started on again, and the terror of God was upon all the cities they journeyed through, so that they were not attacked. Finally, they arrived at Luz, which is also called Bethel in Canaan. And Jacob erected an altar there and named it the altar to the God who met me here at Bethel, because it was there at Bethel that God appeared to him when he was fleeing from Esau. Soon after this, Rebekah's old nurse, Deborah, died and was buried beneath the oak tree in the valley of Bethel, and ever after it was called the Oak of Weeping. Upon Jacob's arrival at Bethel en route from Padanaram, God appeared to him once again and blessed him. And God said to him, "You shall no longer be called Jacob," meaning the grabber, but Israel, meaning one who prevails with God. "I am God Almighty," the Lord said to him, "and I will cause you to be fertile and to multiply and to become a great nation. Yes, many nations, many kings shall be among your descendants. And I will pass on to you the land I gave to Abraham and Isaac. Yes, I will give it to you and to your descendants." Afterward, Jacob built a stone pillar at the place where God appeared to him, and he poured wine over it as an offering to God, and then anointed the pillar with olive oil. Jacob named the spot Bethel, meaning house of God, because God had spoken to him there. Leaving Bethel, he and his household traveled on toward Ephrath, which means Bethlehem. But Rachel's pains of childbirth began while they were still a long way away. After a very hard delivery, the midwife finally exclaimed, "Wonderful, another boy." And with Rachel's last breath, for she died, she named him Benoni, son of my sorrow. But his father called him Benjamin, son, which means son of my right hand. So Rachel died and was buried near the road to Ephrath, also called Bethlehem. And Jacob set up a monument of stones upon her grave, and it is there to this day. Then Israel journeyed on and camped beyond the tower of Eder. It was while he was there that Reuben slept with Bilhah, his father's concubine, and someone told Israel about it. Oh, Jesus. Here are the names of the 12 sons of Jacob, the sons of Leah: Reuben, Jacob's oldest child; Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun. The sons of Rachel: Joseph, Benjamin. The sons of Bilhah, Rachel's servant girl, Dan and Naphtali. The sons of Zilpai, Leah's servant girl, Gad, Asher. All these were born to him at Padanaram. So Jacob came at last to Isaac his father at Mamre in Kiriath Arba, now called Hebron, where Abraham too had lived. Isaac died soon afterward at the ripe old age of 180, and his sons Esau and Jacob buried him. Genesis chapter 36. Here's the list of the descendants of Esau, also called Edom. Esau married 3 local girls from Canaan: Adah, the daughter of Elon the Hethite; Oholibamah, daughter of Anah and granddaughter of Zibeon the Hivite; Basemath, his cousin. She was the daughter of Ishmael, sister of Nabaioth. Esau and Adah had a son named Eliphaz. Esau and Basemath had a son named Ruel. Esau and Oholibamah had sons named Jeush, Jalam, Korah. All these sons were born to Esau in the land of Canaan. Then Esau took his wives, children, household servants, cattle, and flock, all the wealth he had gained in the land of Canaan, and moved away from his brother Jacob to Mount Seir, for there was not land enough to support them both because of all their cattle. Here are the names of Esau's descendants. The Edomites were born to him in Mount Seir. Descended from his wife Adah, born to her son Eliphaz, were Teman, Omar, Zepho, Gatam, Kenaz, Amalek, born to Timnah, Eliphaz's concubine. Esau also had grandchildren from his wife Basemath, born to her son Ruel, were Nahah, Zerah, Shammah, Mizah. Esau's grandchildren became the heads of the clans, as listed here: the clan of Teman, the clan of Omar, the clan of Zepho, the clan of Kenaz, the clan of Korah, the clan of Gitam, the clan of Amalek. The above clans were descendants of Eliphaz, the oldest son of Esau and Adah. The following clans were the descendants of Ruel, born to Esau and his wife Basemath, while they lived in Canaan: the clan of Nahath, the clan of Zerah, the clan of Shammah, the clan of Mizah. And these are the clans named after the sons of Esau and his wife Oholibamah, daughter of Anah: the clan of Jeush, the clan of Jalam, the clan of Korah. These are the names of the tribes that descended from Seir the Horite, one of the native families of the land of Seir: the tribe of Lotan, the tribe of Shobal, the tribe of Zibeon, the tribe of Anah, the tribe of Dishan, the tribe of Ezer, the tribe of Dashan. The children of Lotan, the son of Seir, were Horite and Heman. Lotan had a twin sister, Timnah. The children of Zobal, Alvin, Manahath, Ebal, Shepho, Onam. The children of Zibeon, Anah. This is the boy who discovered a hot springs in the wasteland while he was grazing his father's donkeys. The children of Anah, Dishon, Oholibamah. The children of Dishon, Hemdam, Eshbon, Ithran, Chiron. The children of Ezer, Bilhan, Zaphan, Akan. The children of Dishan, Uz, Aaron. These are the names of the kings of Edom before Israel had her first king: King Bela, son of Beor, and Dinhabah in Edom, succeeded by King Jobab, son of Bozerah, from the city of Boza, succeeded by King Husham from the land of the Temanites. succeeded by King Hadad, the son of Bedad, the leader of the forces that defeated the army of Midian when it invaded Moab. His city was Ava, succeeded by King Samlah from Masrekah, succeeded by King Shaul from Rehoboth by the river, succeeded by King Baal Hanan, the son of Akbor, succeeded by King Hadad from the city of Pau. King Hadad's wife was Mehetabel, daughter of Matred, the granddaughter of Masabal. Here are the names of the subtribes of Esau living in the localities named after themselves: the clan of Timnah, the clan of Alva, the clan of Jethah, the clan of Oholibamah, the clan of Allah, the clan of Penon, the clan of Kenaz, the clan of Timon, the clan of Mizpar, the clan of Migdal, the clan of Imran. These then are the names of the subtribes of Edom, each giving its name to the area occupied. All were Edomites and descendants of Esau. Genesis chapter 37. So Jacob settled again in the land of Canaan where his father had lived. Jacob's son Joseph was now 17 years old. His job, along with his half-brothers, the sons of his father's wives, Bilhah and Zilpah, was to shepherd his father's flocks. But Joseph reported to his father some of the bad things they were doing. Now, as it happened, Israel loved Joseph more than any of his other children because Joseph was born to him in his old age. So one day, Jacob gave him a special gift, a brightly colored coat. His brothers, of course, noted their father's partiality and consequently hated Joseph. They couldn't say a kind word to him. One night, Joseph had a dream and promptly reported the details to his brothers, causing even deeper hatred. "Listen to this," he proudly announced. "We were out in the field binding sheaves, and my sheaves stood up, and your sheaves all gathered around it and bowed low before it. So you want to be our king, do you?" His brothers derided, and they hated him both for the dream and for his cocky attitude. Then he had another dream and told it to his brothers. "Listen to my latest dream," he boasted. "The sun, moon, and 11 stars bowed low before me." This time he told his father as well as his brother, but his father rebuked him. "What is this?" he asked. "Shall I indeed and your mother and brothers come and bow before you?" His brothers were fit to be tied concerning this affair, but his father gave it quite a bit of thought and wondered what it all meant. One day Joseph's brothers took their father's flocks to Shechem to graze them there. A few days later, Israel called for Joseph and told him, "Your brothers are over in Shechem grazing the flocks. Go and see how they're getting along and how it is with the flocks and bring me word." "Very good," Joseph replied. So he traveled to Shechem from his home at Hebron Valley. A man noticed him wandering in the fields. "Who are you looking for?" he asked. "For my brothers and their flocks," Joseph replied. "Have you seen them?" "Yes," the man told him. "They're no longer here. I heard your brothers say that they were going to Dothan." So Joseph followed them to Dothan and found them there. But when they saw him coming, recognizing him in the distance, they decided to kill him. "Here comes this master dreamer," they exclaimed. "Come on, let's kill him and toss him into a well and tell father that a wild animal has eaten him. Then we'll see what will become of his dreams." But Reuben hoped to spare Joseph's life. Let's not kill him," he said. "We'll shed no blood. Let's throw him alive into this well here. That way he'll die without our touching him." Reuben was planning to get him out later and return him to his father. So when Joseph got there, they pulled off his brightly colored robe and threw him into an empty well. There was no water in it. Then they sat down for supper. Suddenly, that's some evil people. Suddenly they noticed a string of camels coming towards them in the distance, probably Ishmaelite traders who were taking gum, spices, and herbs from Gilead to Egypt. "Look there," Judah said to his brothers. "Here come some Ishmaelites. Let's sell Joseph to them. Why kill him and have a guilty conscience? Let's not be responsible for his death, for after all, he is our brother." And his brothers agreed. So when the traders came by, his brothers pulled Joseph out of the well and sold him to them for 20 pieces of silver. And they took him along to Egypt. Sometime later, Reuben, who was away when the traders came, returned to get Joseph out of the well. When Joseph wasn't there, he ripped at his clothes in anguish and frustration. "The child is gone, and where shall I go now?" He wept to his brothers, and the brothers killed a goat and spattered its blood on Joseph's coat and took the coat to their father and asked him to identify it. "We found this in the field," they told him. "Is it Joseph's coat or not?" Their father recognized it at once. "Yes," he sobbed, "it is my son's coat. A wild animal has eaten him. Joseph is without doubt torn in pieces." Then Israel tore his garments and put on sackcloth and mourned for his son in deepest mourning for many weeks. His family all tried to comfort him, but it was no use. "I will die in mourning for my son," he would say, and then break down and cry. Meanwhile, in Egypt, the traders sold Joseph to Potiphar, an officer of the Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. Potiphar was captain of the palace guard, the chief executioner. This is the word of the Lord.